Alright, welcome to episode 2 of our audio upgrade for the TX16S. Check this out, this is version 2.
High rate, throttle cut, brakes off, throttle active.
Stick around if you want to see how we did version 2. It's all internal this time. Nothing sticking out, nothing not using the module bay.
Let me take just a minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay offers fast and easy prototyping services for your custom printed circuit boards, 3D printing, CNC, and a number of different services. Their website also has an active community where you can upload your own projects and share them with others and also use others' projects. You can find projects for just about anything on here. Click the link below and you'll get a $5 discount off your first order.
Alright, well, based on the popularity of the version 1 audio upgrade for the TX16S with this little module, I proved the concept. And it worked quite well, and I was pretty happy with that. But now I'm moving on to version 2, and I'm going to put this stuff inside the radio. And I'm also experimenting with this other little tiny amp. The first one had a potentiometer on it, so I don't need all that if I'm going to put it inside. So I wanted to try out a little amplifier that does not have the potentiometer on it. Turns out it sounds quite well, so this will be really easy to mount inside the box. And I've also gone back to the first set of speakers that I had. They sound a little bit better, and going inside, hopefully I can fit this in there somewhere. We'll see once I get it in, but this is a little bit larger speaker, and it seems to have a little bit better clarity in the vocals. But so here's the small one. I've got several of these that I can work with and mix and match what works the best. Let me show you how this one sounds with the tiny little amp. And I did try it with two speakers. Two speakers didn't work quite well. I think maybe it was too much of a load for this output, and it was breaking up, so it didn't work properly. It would cut out. But with one speaker, sounds great. So let me demonstrate it for you.
Low rate, high rate, acro mode.
So, and that's with the volume potentiometer less than half. Sounds really good. And I still have it plugged into the headphone jack in the back. But once I open it up, I'm going to actually solder that in directly. I'm not going to have the wire coming out and back in. Everything is going to be internal next. And then inside, I'm using the aux port here on the back, aux 1. I am going to solder these wires on the inside. All right, let's crack it open and get the equipment mounted inside. I like to protect the gimbals with these little donut things here, so when we flip it over, we're not putting in pressure on those. So majority of these are a 2mm to get this back case off. You need to pop these side covers off. There aren't any screws in here, but the little side handles just hold it together. And we'll pull the battery out. No screws in there, but you just want to disconnect power and get that out of the way, because you won't be able to get this off with the battery connected. And then on the top, there's 2 screws on the antenna. These top screws are a 2.5mm. And I've actually got some other parts that I'm going to put in while I'm in here. I've got another momentary button I'll add to the back. And I do have a detachable antenna kit. Once that's loosened up, you just pivot that up and it'll loosen up. You don't have to pull it all the way out, and you don't want to yank it because it is attached with the antenna cable there. But once you have that loose, then you can pop the back cover off. And if you have the Mark II, there is one cable connecting the speaker. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it from the little headphone jack, which also jumpers it over to this other speaker. And I'm actually going to solder my wires to the back of this, so I don't have to use the headphone jack. So I just need to identify which wires I'm going to connect to in there, and I'm going to solder right to that. So now that I'm in here, I need to see what kind of room I've got to work with. So the original speaker here is on this side, right by your scroll wheel. So based on this side there's nothing. That's also this side, so it's pretty clear. I think I could get this speaker in right there and it would fit just right. It actually tucks right in there. Now those are small speakers. Let me grab one of those small ones. Obviously these are way smaller. I did notice a pretty good clarity difference between the big one and the small one. But I do kind of like how that fits in there. But you know, you could put this speaker in there, stick it on the side. Definitely would fit easier. Let me pull up some pictures. I had some pictures of another gentleman that saw my video and did his internal installation, and it turned out pretty sweet. Let me take a quick look and see where he put it his. I'll show you some pictures of his installation. Alright, yeah, so he put his just like that. He stuck it right there, and he was really happy with it. But I think I'm going to go with this bigger speaker. I have it. It looks like it'll fit just fine. I'll put some double-sided adhesive on that side, and I think if I trim off this corner and that corner, that will help it to clear. So let me get some snips and cut those off. I think I'll just snap brakes off really easily. Alright, let's see if that's better. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and it fits exactly between that post there and that post. Let me zoom in on that for you so you can see what I'm doing. So it's that corner off. I didn't need to break that much off, but there's a little tiny little ridge right there it was hitting on. And then over here I just needed to clear this corner because it starts curving right there. But with those two corners off, it drops right in there. It fits flush with that, so I think the case will fit down in its little groove just perfectly. And while we're in here, I'll show you. Here's the aux port. I just need to tap into these first two pins here. This first one is the ground or the negative, and the second one is the 5-volt pin. Those are my power for my amplifier. These plug-ins, I don't need those. I'll pull those off, just put wires on it. And those will get soldered here. I'm going to get some double-sided adhesive for that. I think I'm going to leave all this length here for now, because that way I can kind of find a strategic spot to leave the amplifier. Cover it up either with some heat shrink or some tape, and then I'll get the new wires soldered on.
On Aux Port. On
it a test. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Alright, we got a problem. Okay, I've actually shot this section several times. I had it put together and functional, but there was something funky about it, and I wanted to confirm that before I released this video. So I've actually, this is the third time I've shot this little section, and I've reverse engineered this board to make sure that it made sense. So let me explain why it's important that you only hook up this single wire to this terminal. Now there's two terminal options you can use, but you do need to make sure that you're only using this one wire. If you're doing it this way, it's important that you only hooked up to this this one channel, because the other channel is going to not sound as good. So let me zoom in here and I'll show you why. I may or may not show it in the video, so if I haven't, let me explain what happened. I initially hooked up the both positive and negative to my amplifier audio input for one, the right channel and the ground, the signal ground. And I assumed that I could hook up the signal ground to the two speaker wires, signal ground and the left channel or right channel on my amplifier to the positive and negative of the speaker. Well, that didn't work because the amplifier in here uses a floating ground, and the ground signal of this amplifier is directly tied to the DC input negative. So that was shorting out the audio amplifier basically, and number one, it didn't sound good, and number two, it was causing problems. It could have damaged the board, the amplifier and the stock motherboard. So I had found that just hooking up the positive lead out of the right channel, because I was using the right channel output, doesn't matter left or right, but I was wired my speaker was hooked up to the right channel, so I had to use my right input. So just by hooking up the positive to the right input, I got signal out of that. I did not need the ground. And then, so let me explain this board layout here to make sure that it's perfectly clear. You've got your audio coming in from your motherboard. You've got these three wires coming from the main motherboard. The wire here, or the terminal here on the far left, I don't think it goes to any of these pins. It doesn't do anything, so it's not functional. The middle terminal goes through this outer resistor. This is a 216 ohm resistor. And then it goes to this terminal here, which is the same as your ring. So it kind of sits like this. The center pin goes through this 216 ohm resistor, and it goes to this terminal. That terminal connects to the ring on your headphone jack. That same circuit also, the middle terminal, also comes around to this terminal here directly. When the headphone jack is not plugged in, that terminal is connected to this terminal, and then that goes to the speaker, one of the speaker wires. Now the far right pin goes through this right side 216 ohm resistor, and then that goes to this terminal, which is the tip of the headphone jack. That right pin here also goes straight down to this terminal, which is connected to this pin when the headphone jack is not plugged in, and then that one goes to the other speaker wire. So basically, when you plug in the headphone jack, it disconnects these two pins and these two pins and disconnects the speaker from the audio amplifier. So whenever the headphone's plugged in, this speaker, the stock speaker here, does not work. Now the front speaker in your radio still does work if your headphone's plugged in, but you won't hear it because you got your headphones on. Now the sleeve of your headphone jack is connected to this pin, but it is not connected to anything on this board other than that. So when I had my headphone jack wired up, I had the negative connected to the amplifier, but since it wasn't connected to anything on this board, it was irrelevant. And then I only had one wire connected to the amplifier. So really it was the same, but I didn't know it. Ground wasn't connected to anything on this board, so it was a little misleading. Now you also have the option to either hooked up to the either speaker wire, but I did test this and it does, for some reason the audio is distorted if I take this wire and move it to the other speaker wire. So it does make a difference if you're hooked up to the ground or the middle. So you really want to be hooked up to this middle pin, ultimately, is what where our goal is. The way I've got it hooked up is I'm going to the speaker terminal. After, with the headphone jack not plugged in, it connects to this pin. That loops around and it connects to the center pin here. That, in my experience or my testing, has been the best result. When I moved the single wire to the ground side, it was distorted, and that's using this one. So your two options are you can use this pin or this pin. If you use this pin, your speaker is gonna work whether your headphones are plugged in or not. If you do it this way, like I've got it, if I do want to use the headphones, I can plug the headphones in and disconnect the amplifier, and then I only hear it through the headphones, and then a very small volume through the front speaker. Sorry, this is getting lengthy. I just want to make sure this is clear so that you don't damage anything and you get the best possible sound quality. Now, I'm still leaving the stock speaker plugged in, so when I have my amplified speaker running, I also have the stock rear speaker and the front speaker. So when this is all hooked up the way I've got it now, I've got the stock speaker here connected and my amplified speaker and the front speaker. And if I plug in the headphones, it disconnects my amplified speaker and this rear speaker, and just the headphones work and the front speaker. So hope that's clear. If you have questions, put it in the comments below. Hopefully that explains it. Oh, one last quick thing. I did try it on this pin or this pin, and this pin here, the only difference is it goes through this 216 ohm resistor. So I figured the gain or the volume would be a little bit lower, but you know, just with my ear switching back and forth between these two, I was not able to really tell any difference to the sound volume or quality going through that 216 ohm resistor. I decided to go with this one so that my headphone jack would still work. If I put it here, the speaker would still be on whenever the headphones are plugged in. All right, turn this back on, see what we got now.
Welcome to HTX. High rate, disarmed, acro mode, flaps up.
That's really loud. That's awesome. I've got my S1 tied into volume, but for the first couple seconds when you boot it up, it's not active, so it's defaulting to whatever volume you've got the radio set up as. So if I go through the system, go to radio setup, and I probably should just go to the sound. So if I go to here and set this to about, you know, maybe a third or a quarter volume, and then I keep my knob set at about a quarter or a third volume, it won't be as a dramatic change when I first power it up. So let me power it off again, and I'll power back up and see if when my volume knob takes over, if it's about the same volume. It shouldn't be a big transition if I get everything set right.
Welcome to HTX. Save on high rate, disarmed, acro mode, flaps up.
Yeah, that is so much louder. That's awesome.
Flaps down, flaps up. Low rate, high rate, acro mode.
That's really cool.
Save off.
Let me go to the system and make sure, if I go to the hardware, scroll down, and you need to power the auxiliary. Let me turn that off and see what it does. It should deactivate that amplifier. It does, and all I hear is the internal speakers if I do that. See, watch. Now I can turn the volume all the way up.
Flaps up. Flaps down.
Now it's just the stock 2 speakers if I turn that amplifier off by powering that port off.
Flaps up.
Now we turn the volume back down to about a third, power back on. Now,
Flaps down.
back on.
Flaps up.
That works really good. Alright, this is future self one more time with another thing that I've realized after playing with this for a little bit. This bottom port, this AUX1 port, even if I have it turned off, let me show you here. So I'm going to the sys menu. This is the sys button. Let's go over to the hardware page. So if I go to this AUX1 port and I turn it off, so it's off right now, and let me kick on the speakers. So you can hear that. That's my original normal speakers. The amplifier is off right now because I turned that off, but watch. If I power the radio off, so I'm turning the radio off now. Now I'm powering it back up.
HTX. High rate. Throttle cut. Brakes off.
So see the amplifier turned back on, but watch, if I go into the system, go back into the hardware, that's still off, but the amplifier's clearly got power because it's on now, and if I switch any modes,
Landing flaps down, flaps up.
it's on. But if I go in here and I toggle this, okay, when I toggle that on,
Landing flaps down, flaps up.
still on, turn it back off,
Landing flaps down,
now back to the amplifier's off again.
flaps up. Landing flaps down.
There's my stock speakers again. So I don't understand that. I'm gonna have to do a little digging on that. If I learn something, I'll pin it down below or something. But yeah, even if you got the aux 1 port power turned off, if you power it on, maybe it detects that there's something plugged into that port and it automatically powers it up. I don't know, because I've got the aux port set to off and I've got the power set to off, but it still turns on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it on just so I know that it's on. But just be aware of that. I don't know what that means, if that's a problem or not, but I'll probably discuss that with some of my buddies on the developer team and see if they know anything about that. Hopefully the sound that you hear on the video reflects what I'm actually hearing here, because that's really nice. That's exactly what I was hoping for. I can actually hear it and get those call outs. So yeah, Rev 2 is awesome, and it's all internal. Nothing hanging out. I didn't even have to use the headphone jack, and I'm guessing if I plug in my headphone jack to that, it'll still work for headphones. I guess I can try that. You won't be able to hear it, but let me plug in my headphones and I'll give it a try. Okay, just so you can see, I've got my headphones here. I'm plugging them in to the back. So with it plugged in, let's see if, alright, I can still hear the internal speaker, but I won't be able to hear the back speaker. Alright, let me see if I'm going to put my headphones on now. Alright, I can hear it out of the headphones. So it works just like it would normally. I plug in the headphones, it deactivates the rear speaker, but the front speaker still works. And the headphones sound great. Okay, so now I'm going to unplug the headphones again. It should reactivate my amplifier and the rear speaker, but it's kind of quiet. So let me turn the volume down.
Flaps down.
Alright, it's still working.
Flaps up.
That is fantastic. That is a great upgrade. So super simple, very small components with that non-potentiometer amplifier. I don't know, I don't see any drawback to this modification. That is fantastic. I need to activate my new button back here. Let me go into hardware and set that up. Okay, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Let me zoom in and see if you can watch me do this. Alright, I'm in the hardware screens. Now I gotta scroll down to the switches. Now down towards the bottom here are the two auxiliary ones that are not hooked up. I don't remember which one it is. It's either SI or SJ, I believe. Okay, let's turn on SI as a toggle, because it's a push button, and let's see if that, I guess I can turn them both on and then see which one's actuating. If you can see it there, SI is changing state as I push the button on the back. So now it's down, now it's up. So SI is that button there. Let me go back and I do debug keys. So let me go back to the switches. And I'm just going to turn off that other one I don't have installed. So SJ I don't have installed. That's the other port on the other side. So there, now I got an additional momentary button I can use. Yeah, so SJ disappeared off the list now that I deactivated it. But excellent. I'm always using push buttons for stuff. Alright, well, thanks for watching that. Made a few mistakes along the way, but hopefully you've learned something from that. And if you're going to attempt this yourself, you can learn from that and get a successful installation. I'll post links to all the parts that I used in down below. Some of them will be affiliate links if it's off of Amazon. So, appreciate if you use those. If you don't mind, doesn't cost you anything, and I get a couple cents back from each one of those, so I can help pay for some of these parts that we buy to make videos with. So, all right, thanks for watching.